I'm in a little church called Kilmacreachie Church, for those of you who know this area, in West County Clare. What I wanted to talk to you about just very briefly today was to do with perfectionism and also with fear. So what I'd like to do is just to read from Elizabeth Gilbert's Big Magic. So I know that's back to front, but you can find a link to that. I'll put a link up to it underneath the notes. And I'm just going to read to you a little piece about this, because as artists, this is a big issue that we have this fear that what we're doing is not good enough, that it needs to be better, that when we are better, we can show the world. When we are better at what we're doing, when our art has more value, is more important, is of a better technique, when we have all our shit together, then we will allow it to open out onto the world and show it to people. And the difficulty with that is that if we don't start acknowledging our work and doing what we can with what we've got and showing the world what we have, later on, you won't have the benefit of all of that time of producing work and learning and getting better. And so we're stymieing ourselves from improving and from learning and from growing and from getting used to showing people our work and taking the knocks and picking ourselves up and keeping going. I have a story of the guy that kind of found me on Facebook, nearly 10 years ago now, a guy called Declan Mulvaney from Killarney, and that's where my show is, and he's been a great advisor and the gruffest guy. Somebody was just saying that they remember going down to the gallery and he was kind of quite gruff, but a very, very kind-hearted person. And I remember him saying something along the lines to me that he sort of said, look, you're producing this now, I really look forward to seeing, if you're producing this now, what you will produce in 5 years' time. Now you can take that as an Irish compliment, as if to say it's not great now, but I really took it to heart as it was meant, which was, if you can produce what you're producing now and you don't let things get in the way of you, if you don't let your inner critic get in the way of you and your outer critics get in the way to stop you, if you continue to improve your technique, if you continue to feed yourself as an artist and inspire yourself and give you the raw fuel to produce new work, and if you keep producing new work, if you keep doing that for 5 years, you are going to be a better artist in 5 years from now than you are today. So the trick is to learn the ways to step over the negativity and all the stuff that stops you from creating, and create and keep doing it and keep doing it. And whatever stage you're at, whether you're just starting or whether you've been at this for a while and you're kind of maybe producing the same kind of stuff, it's really to step over those things and start challenging yourself and just keep doing it and know that it'll get better. Hi Lorna, you're also on the Wild Atlantic Way. Yes, so let me read you a little bit from Big Magic, which I think is probably something that every creative person should read in their lifetime. And at this stage she's talking about perfection. Okay, so I'm sort of jumping in because it's a fair bit to read. So she was talking about a boyfriend that she had who was an amazing writer, but he felt that his contribution to the world, his great novel, was going to be imperfect. And so because he had this wonderful sense, this great sense of what was good, he made the choice not to write the novel, because he wasn't going to add an imperfect novel to the canon of literature, because he was such a poet, he was so good, he could tell the difference. And so he chose not to do that, right? So she has taken another view, and so have I. I do not think that my work is amazing or the best art that there is out there. I don't think that my voice is something that hasn't necessarily been said before. I believe that there are lots of artists out there, and the wonderful thing about art, and Elizabeth says it, is that there's a place for you. that, you know, other art will shuffle aside and make a little room for your art, and your art can stand there in its own shoes and have its own place, that there is room for your art. So, okay, so let's talk so she talks about his, you know, impeccable ideals, and that holds no romance for her. I don't see this path as heroic. I think it's far more honourable to stay in the game, even if you're objectively failing at that game, than to excuse yourself from participation because of your delicate sensibilities. But in order to stay in the game, we must let go of our fantasy of perfection. So let's talk for a moment about perfection. Hi, Carol. The great American novelist Robert Stone once joked that he possessed the two worst qualities imaginable as a writer. He was lazy and he was a perfectionist. Indeed, those are the essential ingredients for torpor and misery right there. If you want to live a contented creative life, you do not want to cultivate either one of these traits, trust me. What you want is to cultivate quite the opposite. You must learn how to become a deeply disciplined half-ass. It starts by forgetting about perfect. We don't have time for perfect. In any event, perfection is unachievable. It's a myth and a trap and a hamster wheel that will run you to death. The writer Rebecca Solnit puts it well. So many of us believe in perfection, which ruins everything else. Because the perfection is not only the enemy of good, that's Voltaire's my favorite quote, it's also the enemy of realistic, the possible, and the fun. Perfectionism stops people from completing their work, yes, but even worse, it stops people from beginning their work. Perfectionists often decide in advance that the end product is never going to be satisfactory, and they don't even bother trying to create in the first place. The most evil trick about perfectionism, though, is that it disguises itself as a virtue. In job interviews, for instance, people will sometimes advertise their perfectionism as their greatest selling point, taking pride in the very thing that is holding them back from enjoying their fullest possible engagement with creative living. They wear their perfectionism like a badge of honour, as if it signals high taste and exquisite standards. But I see it differently. I think perfectionism is just a high-end couture version of fear. I think perfectionism is just fear in fancy shoes and a mink coat, and pretending to be elegant when actually it's just plain terrified. Because underneath that shiny veneer, perfectionism is nothing more than a deep existential angst that says again and again, I am not good enough, and I will never be good enough. Perfectionism is a particular evil lure for women, who I believe hold themselves to an even higher standard of performance than do men. There are many reasons why women's voices and visions are not widely represented today in creative fields. Some of that exclusion is due to regular old misogyny, but it's also true, and all too often, women are the ones holding themselves back from participating in the first place, holding back their ideas, holding back their contributions, holding back their leadership and their talents. Too many women still seem to believe that they are not allowed to put themselves up forward at all, until both they and their work are perfect and beyond criticism. Just as an aside, I will dig out a podcast with a woman called Tracy Moore, I think is her name, and she wrote a book called Playing Big, and it's all about women and how we don't play big in our lives, whether we're working, whether we're working from home or wherever sphere that we're working in, that we limit ourselves, and don't allow ourselves to play big. Meanwhile, putting forth work that is far from perfect rarely stops men from participating in the global cultural conversation. Just saying. I don't say this as a criticism of men, by the way. I like that feature in men. Their absurd overconfidence, the way they will casually decide, well, I'm 41% qualified for this task, so give me the job. Yes, sometimes the results are ridiculous and disastrous, but sometimes, strangely enough, it works. A man who does not seem ready for the task, not good enough for the task, somehow grows immediately into his potential through the wild leap of faith itself. I only wish more women would risk these same kinds of wild leaps. But I've watched too many women do the opposite. I've watched far too many brilliant and gifted female creators say, I'm 99% qualified for this task, but until I master that last smidgen of ability, I will hold myself back, just to be on the safe side. Now I cannot imagine where women ever got that idea that they must be perfect in order to be loved or successful. Just kidding. I can totally imagine. We got it from every single message society has ever sent us. Thanks all of human history. But we women must break this habit in ourselves. And we are the only ones who can break it. We must understand that the drive for perfectionism is as corrosive a waste of time, because nothing is ever beyond criticism. No matter how many hours you spend attempting to render something flawless, somebody will always find fault with it. There are people out there who still consider Beethoven's symphonies a little bit, loud. At some point, you really just have to finish your work and release it as it is. If only so that you can go on to make other things with a glad and determined heart, which is the entire point, or should be. So, wonderful, wise words, you're right. Let me just get rid of that on screen. I think the point of all of this is that so many of you I am seeing in the group putting up work that is wonderful. But if you can produce that now, what will you be producing in 5 years' time if you step outside of your own way, if you practice, if you gain technique, if you feed your creativity and you do the work? Why can't you be an artist? Why can't you be someone you are proud of yourself, standing over work that you are proud of? So there's no reason. There's so many of you, and whether you're starting out and feeling like there's loads of people putting amazing paintings up here and my work is nothing like that and I'm only a beginner, or maybe you are a professional artist and you're looking at work and saying, oh yeah, that's fine for them because they're only starting out and they're amateurs, but I'm holding myself to a higher standard. My work has to be something else. Bash yourself on the head. No, and that's a point for the beginners to remember, that the people who are artists, who are professionally selling their work, are just as much caught up with all this stuff as the people who are starting out. And we limit ourselves, we stop ourselves from putting it out there because it's not ready, because we're not quite good enough, because we haven't got the reputation we want, or because. So this week I am on holidays. Although I've been dipping into the group, I haven't been answering a lot of comments or emails and stuff. I've just been sort of one step removed. I've been doing an awful lot of nothing, an awful lot of reading, an awful lot of staring at the sea, and the weather has been very mixed. But it's incredibly important for me that I take that break, and I guess it's a good time for me to take stock in the year of what I'm doing and what my artistic output should be, what I want it to be, and what I'm allowing it to be, what my artistic career is, what it does for me. The things that are important for me. It is important that I feed my family. I'm a single mum. So from a business point of view, I'm quite structured, but I'm also an artist, and I don't want to create for my galleries what they want necessarily. I want to create something out of my soul. And So a week away or time away for you guys is, like for me, I think, a good time to look at all of that stuff. So you may have kids, and if you have kids, family holidays tend to be very busy. Or you may live alone, or your kids may be grown up. Over this summer, whenever your break of time happens for you, what I would like to challenge you to do is to really think about, what do I want from my artistic journey? And not to limit that, not to sort of feel I'm only this, I can only do this, what would people say, and would they think I was, but to think about if I didn't have to think about all that stuff, what would I really love, and to look at your life and to say, okay, well, this is what I want. Where are the obstacles to that? And what of those obstacles can I realistically shift and change and rebalance so as to give myself space and a way through? Because, time is something we make, and none of us have enough time, and everybody is too busy. But some people are doing it. And the people who are in this group, which is you are doing it. You are already doing it. So what's the step that you want to make? Where do you want to get? So I know that's not a question you can necessarily answer right now, right here in Kilmacreedy Church, but I think over the summer, when you get a little bit of time and your mind can be a little less busy, start thinking about those things and trying to see if you can answer those questions, and then make a list of things that you need to do to clear a way for yourself. Do you need to improve your technique? Do you need some more training? And we work on that in this group. Do you need to maybe join a local group? Do you need to feed your creativity? Do you need to make more time regularly to be inspired by looking at art, or reading, or walking, or whatever it is that floats your boat in that direction? And are you painting enough? Have you built that time into your routine? Juliana, who's in the group, was telling me about a wonderful exercise that she did that was inspired from the workshop that we did together. And she, as one of the exercises that I do, is I get people to look at their routine and actually to plot it out. But what she did, she found that she felt very guilty about going to spend time painting. She works part-time, she's got family, she's very busy, she's in the car a lot with them. And what she did was she did out a weekly routine where she mapped out all the time that she spent on housework, on cooking, on cleaning, on driving the kids places, on supervising homework, on being with the family, being available to their needs. And then she looked in that routine to how much of her week she spent solely focused on her own needs, and she was shocked at how little time she gave to herself. And it gave her, doing that exercise gave her permission to say, okay, I actually could give myself 2.5 hours out of the 100 hours a week or 50 hours a week or whatever it is that I'm giving to other people or to work or to whatever, and give myself permission, space. And this is what I'm going to do with that little bit of space. So I hope that has provoked some thinking over the next little while for you guys. I'm going to just take you now to have a look at that view, because really it would be an awful shame to bring you to the west coast of Clare and not do that. I'll leave this is the inside of this church, and